Demon Slayer is a pretty fun show. I just finished the entertainment arc of Demon Slayer, and normally I kind of let it sit with me for a day or so before I do a review, but for a show like this, I don't think I need to. Now, your guys' experience or even enjoyment level of the show might vary from mine due to the fact that I binged the entire season the day before the season finale. Normally, I'd watch the entire season episode by episode, week by week like normal, but to be honest, because of how the first act of Mugen Train was, I decided to watch it all at once. Now, I'm not really going to give my episode by episode breakdown of the show, but I'll just kind of give my overall feelings of how I thought season 2 went. And I have to say, this show is really starting to come into its own. As much as I enjoy season 1, I always thought it was a bit boring. It was a little slow with the story, and the combat and action scenes were just fine. But I knew season 2 would not disappoint. You see, shonens follow a pretty interesting formula when you really think about it. The season 2 is usually one of the best arcs in the entire series, and it kinda has to be. It's where the ball gets rolling and the story really picks up. It's usually what the author had originally intended before the show gets super popular, where you have to start making stuff up to extend it. Think about it, the Saiyan Saga is fun, but the Namek Saga is amazing. The Substitute Shimigami arc is fun, but rescuing Rukia. And the Hunter's Dam is a fun introduction, but the Phantom Troupe arc, right? One of the only anime to really break that formula is the beginning of Naruto, where Haku and Zabuza is already outstanding and on par with the Chunin exam. But I digress, this entertainment arc is outstanding. And I'm going to talk about my favorite part of this show first, and I don't think anyone's going to fight me here, and that's the animation. This show is absolutely gorgeous. Madhouse is probably my favorite anime studio, I'm not biased at all. But UFO Table is a really close second. This studio does not slack off. Every episode, even training flashbacks, are drawn with just such detail. I mean, this studio draws so well, it almost makes me watch bad shows, tricking me to think it's fun. I think the original creator did a really good job making every character feel very distinguished. Each character feels like they have their own unique personality and designs just from their outfits. UFO Table just did a really good job bringing out their personality through their animation. Now, I'm not going to say the fights in this show are super memorable, but they are super pretty. In terms of just aesthetics, I think this show probably has some of the best fight scenes I've seen in all of anime. But as far as memorable fights, maybe not as much. I hope I'm not being overly critical, but I don't know. That's just kind of my personal feel about it. But I do love the characters' expressions. Like, this studio just really focuses on the detail of facial expressions during fights. It just makes the fight come alive. We have our 4 main protagonists and our 2 main villains of the series, and we have a couple side characters. But I have to say, the characters I enjoy the most are everyone but the main trio, actually. I said that in my last video. It feels like the main character's default personality is just set to brave, and I kind of feel that way about Tojiro. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think he's a bad character. I don't think he's an offensive character. I think he's fine. But that's the problem. I think he's just fine. I think he works well enough to carry the show. That's because I think the other characters around him are a bit more interesting. But not these two. Zenitsu and Boar Dude, they aren't better than the main character. And I think that's a problem. In other shonen shows where the main character is very likable and very popular, he has to have at least 1 or 2 side characters that are part of his main trio or group that are just as popular as him, if not better. Now, I realize everything I'm saying here is a bit subjective, and you could completely disagree with me, and that'd be fine. This is not really an objective argument for this part of the video. But if you think about it for a second, Naruto has Sasuke and Kakashi. Gon has Killua and Kurapika. Goku has Vegeta, Piccolo, Gohan. I mean, you see what I'm saying here. Are Zenitsu and Boar Dude better than Tojiro? And even if they are on the same level, are any of them amazingly memorable? If it wasn't for the animation, I don't think this show would be doing as well, because I don't think the characters are what's holding it up. At least the main characters anyway. But here's where the show almost kind of saves itself in that department. because the side characters, the other side characters that you won't see very often, they're pretty cool. Kojiro and Tengen are outstanding characters in my opinion. Everything you need to know about them is shown in their art design. You know that this guy has a fiery spirit. You know that this guy is super flashy. Their personalities are huge and bold, and it does a really good job of bouncing off the main trio. I really liked Kojiro and I thought it was going to be a fluke, but when I met Tengen and he started coming out of his shell and he started bouncing off the main trio, I realized that I was really gonna love this show. And maybe that's what the original creator had in mind. Maybe he wanted the main character to be more of a blank slate to bounce off of his side characters, and I can definitely respect that. I just wish the other two people in his trio were a little bit better. But the two main antagonists I thought did a really good job. I do think they tried a little bit too hard to try to make the audience sympathize with the main villains. I mean, they eat people, and one was ripping a child's ear off, so I'm not gonna lie, a lot of that felt a little flat on me. It felt a little too forced, just kind of jammed there in the last episode, but I don't think that's really bad. That's more of just a nitpick, me trying to find bad things to say about this season. I just think if they wanted me to feel a little bit more sympathy towards the villain, they probably shouldn't have demonized them the entire season. Maybe if it showed more flashbacks, broken up flashbacks that we saw in the last episode, throughout that entire fight, I probably would have felt more when the whole thing came together at the end. And just a quick note that I've noticed about this show, and other shonens definitely may have spoiled me in this aspect. I think the music is good, but also not memorable. The soundtrack for a shonen for me is extremely important, and this show, like I said, does not have a bad soundtrack. It's good, but if you asked me in a year to listen to the soundtrack and ask me what show it's from, I probably wouldn't be able to tell you. Like, for all my fairy tale fans, as little of us as there is left, when you hear this song.
Forgive me. I've been such a fool. I forgot the most important thing of all. I wasn't protecting everyone around me.
You know shit's about to go down. In Attack on Titan, when you hear this, you know something's gonna happen. And I don't think this show's soundtrack detracts from the show at all. I'm just waiting for another shonen show that when I hear a soundtrack like this, I know it's gonna hype me up before anything's even happened on screen. Listen, overall, I'm really enjoying the show. This show seems really reminiscent of Bleach for very obvious reasons. Captains, ranks, squads, elemental abilities, all that stuff. And while with Bleach, it definitely took a long time for a lot of those characters to, come into their own. But that's probably because there were just so many characters introduced in the Soul Society arc, it was really hard to write that organically. So I'm giving Kubo a break on that. But in this show, I think it did a really good job. It gave us a glimpse of all the squad leaders, and now it's going to each of them one by one. And from the way the season ended, it looks like we know who the next squad leader might just focus on. But I could be wrong. I don't know. I didn't read the manga, but I can say for certain that I'm definitely excited for the next season. And there we go. Those were just some of my main thoughts and takeaways from Season 2 of Kimetsu no Yaiba. I didn't want to get too detailed in this review because I thought if I did that, I'd be really just breaking down each of the fight scenes that happened in this arc because that's what this arc is. It's kind of one giant fight scene, and I didn't want this review to be that. I love the fight that we got to see Nezuko get out of her shell more, and we saw new powers that happened with her. I thought all of that was really nice and entertaining. And as much as I may not like Zenitsu and Inosuke, it was really nice to see them fight in a battle that actually impacted the story. It shows that the creator actually wants to use its side characters. But let me know in the comments below, do you guys like these 10-minute-ish reviews, or you guys like a more detailed breakdown of the season in the future? So don't forget to like and subscribe for more anime and anime-related content. I just finished Neon Genesis Evangelion the other day, and That's going to be a very interesting review, so don't forget to hit the bell icon and get notified for that when it drops. Take care, guys.